As can be seen from the recent Black Friday shopping, we are purchasing more items than ever. And what are we using to purchase all these items, you might ask? Well, I would say that the majority of them were purchased using credit cards. So let's learn some more about how these powerful pieces of plastic are impacting us and other people. Credit cards have been growing rapidly in popularity in the United States ever since they debuted in the late 1950s. There's no denying the convenience involved with carrying a credit card. It is far more simple to swipe a piece of plastic than to worry about having to carry cash or change. It also comes with many other rewards, such as cash back, monthly statements, and more. With so many pros, it is no wonder that so many Americans rely exclusively on cards when making purchases. But are credit cards always such a force of good? Credit cards may have first been designed out of sheer need for many of the conveniences I list above. However, there are many inadvertent consequences that come into many people's lives when they make the decision to use a credit card. One of the greatest consequences is that they make it so much easier to fall into debt. They make it so convenient to buy things, and credit cards differ greatly from debit cards because one can spend nearly as much as they want and not have to worry about a payment until afterward. This is very dangerous for many of the people who use credit cards because it is far too easy to lose track of spending and end up with payments that simply cannot be afforded. The following chart is one that I recovered from research.stlouisfed.org, and it's a study done on their state households and how credit card debt has gone up over time. And it shows that since the relative debut of credit cards, the mean of credited debt per American household has gone up dramatically. As credit cards continue to gain more and more popularity, especially in the US, the debt that is accrued on these cards is continually rising. This may be in part because in the US, there is a consumer culture that is bent on desiring, actively pursuing, consuming, and displaying goods and services to satisfy utilitarian as well as materialistic and hedonistic urges. Consequently, many times we see that people cannot resist urges to satisfy material needs. Obviously, one will always desire to have more possessions. This is why credit cards can so often lead to debt when they are not limited by a balanced amount of cash. It is extremely difficult to refrain from buying things that one wants. Credit cards may be beneficial for some people, but are often destructive to those who cannot control these ambitions and maintain a decent budget. Many credit cards have compounding interest, which is something that can be either greatly beneficial or greatly destructive depending on the side of the equation you are on. Even the great scientist Albert Einstein is quoted as saying that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Compound interest is indeed very powerful, and many people underestimate how quickly credit card balances can get out of hand. A brief explanation of compound interest will help you understand why it can be so powerful. Compound interest is defined by Investopedia as interest calculated on the initial principal and also the accumulated interest of previous periods of a deposit or loan. This essentially means that you are paying interest on interest. The compound interest equation is exponential, meaning that when debt is accrued on a credit card, it is even a relatively small original amount, and left unchecked for any period of time, it can grow out of control because as more time passes, the curve becomes more and more steep. The following graph I recovered from crackerjackgreenback.com, and it shows how the loan on a principal amount of only $1,000 can skyrocket out of control when given enough time. This interest rate for this equation is only 8%. This is less than the average rate on even low interest credit cards that withhold many of the benefits associated with typical credit cards. And typical credit cards have an average of around 12%. As you can see, the more time that passes, the graph becomes more and more steep, making it more difficult to pay back the loan. Also, it is important to notice that for a loan with a higher principal, interest is accrued much more quickly. Many believe that they can avoid paying compound interest if they simply never allow a balance to accrue that they cannot pay. This is truly a good idea, and it works for many people, but for many others, it is far too easy to fall into the realm of having a balance sum too large to pay off. The following chart shows the results of a survey done by the National Small Business Association. It clearly shows that only 50% of small business owners completely pay off their credit cards every month. This means that 50% of business owners are paying some interest on their credit cards, and many are paying a great deal of interest on credit cards. It is surely never the intention of business to waste money on credit card debt. However, it happens very often because it is so easy to spend money that one does not have. Many times people who have a credit card debt simply choose not to pay it off. Liquid assets are things that can be very quickly and easily exchanged and quickly spent on short notice. Examples of these include cash, savings accounts, and checking accounts. In an article on liquidity and credit card debt, Telyukova explains, in the 2001 U.S. survey of consumer finance, 27% of households reported revolving an average of $5,766 in credit card debt. All this while simultaneously holding an average of $7,338 in liquid assets. This shows that so many people lack foresight or do not understand the importance of settling debt when compound interest is involved. One should strive to be informed about both the risks and rewards of using these powerful pieces of plastic. They can be either extremely convenient or disadvantageous depending on the decision of the person using the card.